because I'm a bigger terrormonger than any Republican. So this is obviously this is no perspective. It's a bankrupt perspective. Now, I think therefore the idea would be the Philadelphia platform says essentially something like this: impeach Bush Cheney, stop the wars, all wars, Afghanistan, Iraq. No attack on Syria, no attack on Iran, no attack on Sudan, no attack on Venezuela, no confrontation with Russia, no confrontation with China. Don't build missile sites in Eastern Europe for a thermonuclear first strike against the Russians, no attack on China, and so forth. No dictatorship. Roll back this entire thing. All of Bush's signing statements are rejected with prejudice. People rule, not bankers. This is important because this then becomes the window through which the economic program is brought in. I have a class analysis too. Mine is not Marxist. It's Platonic and Machiavellian. And it's essentially, I noticed though that both Ralph and Maya were lapsing into the one, the few, and the many, which is straight Plato. And I think that is interesting, that those are the categories of existence. And the problem right now is the society run for the few rather than the many. Although I think we've also got to have a strong orientation towards the labor movement. 9/11 truth. 9/11 truth happens to be the indispensable ingredient, because if you don't have 9/11 truth, you don't get anywhere, because the basis of this regime happens to be 9/11 truth.
That's it.
We had the budget. I mean, it extends to literally everything. You tell me your issue, I'll tell you why 9/11 truth is preventing you from getting anywhere.
Right.
The budget came up here, the Capitol Hill, and they say, wait a minute, Bush, you're going to cut health, education, and welfare. Why are you going to do that? And the budget director came out and said, yeah, but we have to fight the global war on terror, don't we? Everything that goes on is under the cover of this stuff. So it seems to me that that's the way to do it. And that, of course, would be a united front in precisely the terms that have been stated. Now, on the other side, we have this Ron Paul phenomenon. And again, I'm very glad to have a wrecking ball inside the Republican Party. I'm very glad to see a Republican stand up there and cause problems for the others, because he does assert a certain kind of conservatism. But the problem is, he comes on there as an American conservative, and he says, I'm a supporter of the Austrian school of von Hayek. Well, that's Thatcher, of course, and that's the rent-gouging Viennese landlords of the 1920s. That's what von Hayek started. Why rent control is bad, so we can raise the rents. Anybody who's ever lived in New York knows how important rent control is. I think that, well, at this point, the leftists, the anti-war base of the Democratic Party, know they're in trouble. They know they need new leaders. I'm afraid that the Ron Paul people are off there in la-la land, but I hope they're going to come back, because you need them. It just so happens that your right-winger is a better fighter. As an individual, they're tougher, they're more independent. They're not as sharp, and they don't understand organization. Compared to the leftist. The leftist is smarter, understands organization, but is a schlemiel. And he's wondering, oh, can I do this? What will Noam Chomsky say? Some left liberal intellectual lawyer. And we've gone through all those left gatekeepers. So, plus, I made a resolution with Bush. Now I'm going to lapse into my North Queens plebeian dialect. I said to myself, after Bush, I'm not voting for no Republican for 10,000 years. And somebody said to me, don't you think you're being a little bit harsh? I said, all right, I'll make a concession, 5,000 years. But how anybody could go back to the Republican Party for any reason, I just can't see. And the Democratic Party is exactly the same story. Now, what are you going to do about it? This is, I guess, the interesting part. We need a candidates movement. You go to somebody like Conyers, he's laughing at you. He's chuckling. He says, what do you got, money? You got a suitcase full of money for me? What do you got, a mass organization with 5 million people? What do you got? If you don't have that, here's what you have. You can say, Congressman, if that bill of impeachment is not submitted within 72 hours, you have a primary opponent, and it's me. And you can do that with no money. You can do that with just your heart and your mind. If you do that, you're causing him big problems. You're taking his money, you're taking his time, you're embarrassing him, you're really going to get his attention. And if enough people do that, you can get their attention. And under these conditions of economic breakdown, social breakdown, the possible attack on Iran, the wider war, you could actually win. Why not? If not now, who? And if not you. Right. So there's one. We've got a guy running statewide in Vermont. It's Craig Hill. We've got, I was just in New York. I think I've got a candidate in South Brooklyn, in Flatbush. I think I've got another guy up in Queens. I've got a black guy in Staten Island who's going to run against the incumbent, who is a Republican, Vito Fasella. So we're going to challenge Wiener, one of the worst of the neocon warmongers, Ackerman, who hasn't done anything. We've got Leland Lehrman. This is a very interesting story. He's the son of Louis Lehrman, the founder of the Lehrman Institute, neocon moneybags. He's running for U.S. Senate in New Mexico, 9/11 truth. Kevin Barrett was at the meeting in Cooper Union this weekend. Kevin Barrett is about to declare for the U.S. Congress in Madison, Wisconsin. And I just heard that we're about to get a candidate in South Bend, Indiana. We've got Mike Kopass in San Diego, and he's got a woman with him who may become a Republican candidate out there. And I think that's what people have to do. This is the system we have. I wish we had some other system. I would like to have a revolutionary combat party with trade unions and sports clubs, and I'd like to have the SPD, the PCI, the CGT, and the CFDT, and the SFIO, where we don't have any of that. We have no organization. We have zero. We are atomized. This is a bunch of atomized people in front of the tube, and we got to get beyond that. But this is my idea of how to do that. So. We've also got, I have to mention, the infamous Kenny Bunkport warning. That was the idea of saying, well, in a time when we're about to have World War III, shouldn't we say something about it if we are peace leaders? So what do we have? The peace movement, anti-war movement, impeachment, anti-globalization, fair vote count, labor, civil rights, black community, other, Latino groups of similar types, and so forth. Everybody welcome. What else do we have? Well, you know the movements, right? Now, but it's anybody with any positive content, and individuals, people, none of the above. We've somehow got to promote a convergence. Now, I'm sorry William Pepper didn't come, because I heard him in Cooper Union. He has a very interesting story about the last months of Martin Luther King, and it's a very simple story. He says, Martin Luther King was, of course, in Memphis. He was trying to promote the garbage men strike, and he was trying to broaden that into a general strike, a regional general strike or mass strike. And the goal of Martin Luther King, he says he was going to go to Washington after Memphis. And the goal was, you have anti-war, Vietnam War in that case, you've got the black civil rights movement with a lot of support, and you've got labor. And you merge those. And that's your challenge to the system. And the entire intelligence community is organized to prevent that from happening. So right now in our time, it seems to me, you were in Philadelphia, right, for the July 4th. That's what we have to promote. And that's really how you have to measure anybody. And anybody who's not interested in doing that is really very much on the wrong track. Now, given the party realignment, one last thing, actually a couple more last things. The question of apathy, the question of the stupefied American population, of course, cannot be avoided. I would simply say that the last 40-year cycle, which for some of us may take on the form of ontological, metaphysical reality, is not so, and that other kinds of social organization have existed even in this country, right? There was a San Francisco general strike, there was a Minneapolis general strike, there were the Detroit sit-down strikes, there have been social movements that amounted to something. It's not doomed to be the way it is, and I think powerful forces are coming together. Just in the New Deal, I know we had a Roosevelt. I have to say, by the way, the Taft-Hartley law was actually under Truman. Yes, under Truman. So a minor point. But the thing there is, if you look at the voter turnout,
the no strike pledge, Webster, was under FDR.
Yes, of course. And I want to stress the mass struggle part of this now, because I'm telling you, don't wait for any politician. Don't wait for Ron Paul. He's not going to save you. Don't wait for Kucinich. He has struck out. Gravel they've all struck out. They've had 24 cable TV debates, and none of them has said a damn thing about 9/11.
Yeah.
Where it counted on TV with the other candidates and the press listening in. They have struck out. If you don't see that by now, you're a little bit pathétique. Okay, so the question of apathy and passivity, and the